soul is welcome here. I am hearing the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to rise as we join in singing How Beautiful.
How beautiful our spacious skies, our amber waves of grain, our purple mountains as they rise above the fruited plain. America, America, God's gracious gifts abound, and more we're grateful for life's bounty all around. Indigenous and immigrant, our daughters and our sons, oh, may we never rest content till all are truly one. America, America, God grant that we may be a sisterhood and brotherhood from sea to shining sea. How beautiful, sincere lament, the wisdom born of tears, the courage called for to repent, the blood shed through the years. America, America, God grant that we may be a nation blessed with none oppressed, true land of liberty. How beautiful two continents and islands on the sea that dream of peace non-violent, all people living free. Americas, Americas, God grant that we may be a hemisphere where people here all live in harmony.
Good morning. As an affirmation for peace in the Middle East and in solidarity with our Muslim and Jewish brothers and sisters, all of us, people of the book, we return to greeting one another. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Peace be upon you.
And upon you peace.
Shalom alaikum.
Alaikum shalom.
So welcome. I'm Reverend Vicky Elder, and it's my joy and honor to welcome you to Unity of Monterey Bay, a beloved community co-created with love and intention on this, our anniversary Sunday, celebrating 21 years of UMB being an independent versus an outreach Unity church, 23 years of sharing this journey with me as your minister, 2 years with Michelle. She was ordained 2 years ago. And as our associate minister, and 22 years with Denise as our music director, and most importantly, the ever-evolving experience that is Unity of Monterey Bay. Our anniversary Sunday always falls on the Sunday closest to July 4th, as Rory and my very first Sunday was on that weekend. And so we always join in celebrating our nation's, we also join in celebrating our nation's 245th birthday, honoring the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, that inspired vision that continues to call our nation higher. Whether you're here with us in person or joining us virtually, we know that love knows no boundaries and that we are one in spirit. So we begin by affirming our Unity of Monterey Bay sacred purpose as an inclusive spiritual community committed to co-creating an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and compassionate human presence on this planet. We celebrate our oneness and honor the God of each of our understanding, affirming the innate good and divine essence within each and every individual. Would you please join me in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. And so it is. And now as we celebrate what has gone before, we also continue to pray a new story for our community, our nation, and our world, reading from Extravagant Generosity by Michael Morwood. We give thanks for the driving force at work in our universe that become visible in extravagant generosity and celebration of being. We give thanks for our awareness of this driving force at work, mindful that it is beyond the names we give it, beyond the images we use to describe it. Source and ground of all being, Supreme Spirit, Allah, Yahweh, Creator, and so many more. Whatever name we use, we acknowledge that everything in existence gives expression to this reality we call God. We are able to rejoice in a universe abounding in extravagant generosity, where disintegration and death lead to new possibilities of self-expression. We rejoice that here on earth we are a life form where life, love, intelligence, and awareness come to expression in human form. We rejoice and want to celebrate that we are generosity of being evolved into human form. We give thanks for the wonder of human existence that enables generosity of being to speak and sing, laugh and dance, write and paint, plan and build, imagine possibilities, appreciate, celebrate, and rejoice. And we say yes. Can you affirm that with me? We say yes. And so it is. And now we again, I think it's been a while since we've done this service. The summer affirmation. There we go. So you should have gotten one when you came in. If you didn't, it's here. Will you join me in our summer affirmation? Centered in God, I move forward with ease and grace. So it is. Okay. Oh, that's why I need to go back. We are now on
Birthdays.
Yes, birthdays. I had to turn back a page. See, we're getting used to back sort of to a hybrid new order of service. So thank you for your patience. And my son got married yesterday, so I'm sort of in an altered state of consciousness as I stand here with you all today. So it is birthday Sunday. So if your birthday is in July, or if your birthday has happened earlier in this year and you didn't get to come up, obviously, because we weren't doing in church, come on down. These are the only ones, really? Okay. now we take this moment to bless our children. We got any little ones that are going to join us up here? Well, this is the perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
Hey. So we're taking this moment to bless all the children, those that are in our lives. This beautiful. If your heart isn't awoken with this, how you doing? All right, and all the children of the world, especially giving thanks for their resilience and creativity, their enthusiasm, and the sense. Oh boy, we have more. Great. The sense of joy that they embody. Let us join in our heartfelt blessing. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you just the way you are.
This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And now we center ourselves once again and deepen our blissful interconnection with Spirit, taking a deep breath in and letting it out with an audible sigh, allowing all distractions to gently fade away as we invite the chime to call us into this sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Continuing to focus on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. Again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine, as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude, and with a fullness of heart we say yes to it all, embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we embrace, claim, and know the truth of our being, and we say thank you, God. Now fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
Oh, it's so nice to see all you beautiful people. Yay! We read from today's daily word, shared with permission of Unity, publisher of Daily Word, that can also be found at dailyword.com. And the word is freedom. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. In thought, word, and action, I celebrate my freedom. There are many ways to feel free. I may work hard to become financially free. I may plan trips so I can freely explore the world. I may commit to learning for intellectual freedom or exercise my body for greater freedom of movement. Even as I do my work in the world to know freedom, I remember I am always free at the level of spirit. No situation or circumstance has power over me. Every day and in every area of my life, I live from my divine nature, where I am wholly and completely free. Through my inner powers of understanding and faith, I recognize and embrace empowering beliefs. My spiritual gifts of strength and release keep me on course and help me feel free myself from habits that derail my spiritual growth. Through God within, I am grateful to be free. And from the scriptures, for freedom Christ has set us free. Galatians chapter 5, verse 1.
I am that I am has brought me to this now moment. Here I am. I am that I am has brought me to this now moment. Here I am to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. To be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am.
In witness to the wisdom of the many paths to the sacred, we read from 4 sacred traditions on this morning's topic, the importance of community. From Buddhism, the jewel of community, the Sangha, is to be held equal to the Buddha and the Dharma. Indeed, the whole of the holy life is fulfilled through spiritual friendship. From Hinduism, meet together, speak together, let your minds be of one accord, as the gods of old, being of one mind, accepted their share of the sacrifice. May your counsel be common, your assembly common, common the mind and the thoughts of these united. A common purpose do I lay before you, and worship with your common oblation. Let your aims be common, and your hearts of one accord, and all of you be of one mind, so you may live well together. From Judaism, if 2 sit together, and the words between them are of Torah, then the Shekinah is their midst. And from Christianity, so in Christ we, though many, from one body, and each member belongs to all the others. Romans chapter 12, verse 5.
love that unites the world. There's a perfect flow of joy that invites the world. And there's a perfect flow of peace I now behold, soul to soul. There's perfection in the oneness that I feel. There's reflection in the process as I heal. And there's a perfect flow of love I now behold, soul to soul. Soul to soul, heart to heart, mind to mind. Soul to soul, heart to heart, peace is mine. There's a perfect flow of love that resides in me. There's a perfect flow of joy that is guiding me. And there's a perfect flow of peace I now behold, soul to soul. Take it away, Devin. Soul, heart to heart, mind to mind. Soul to soul, heart to heart, peace is mine. There's a perfect flow of love that unites the world. There's a perfect flow of joy that invites the world. And there's a perfect flow of peace I now behold, soul to soul, 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 soul to soul.
Wow, I'm kind of moved. That's why I got back down to grab my camera, because you guys look so awesome. I'm going to take your picture. Everybody smile.
I agree. It's so nice to see everybody.
I wish I had a
out there.
wide-angle lens. I'm going to do it like this, and then we'll put them together later.
It's so nice to see everybody.
It is so...
It's so nice.
It's so good to see the sanctuary full and to see some of your faces I haven't seen in a very long time. And I'm just so excited. So excited. We're going to have a barbecue. It's going to be so fun. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Well, Vicky asked me to talk a little bit today about my experience with the pandemic and how, we always like to see the blessing in things. So how, even during these challenging and difficult times, how we can always find some sort of lessons and or some sort of blessings that come from them. And these blessings that we find, sometimes they just show up on their own, right? Like they're really obvious. You just go, wow. And sometimes we have to go looking for them a little harder. And so, we have this thing, I demand to see the blessing in that. And and we stomp too. And that's when we use that power of mind action, that power of our thoughts and our perspective and our attitude to simply decide that whatever is going on, we are going to find the good in that situation. And when we're specifically looking with those eyes, with that perspective, and specifically looking for the good, my new thing is I'm calling it our God glasses, or maybe I've said that before, but when we're looking through our God glasses, meaning that higher perspective, higher consciousness, the good always shows up. Am I right? Always shows up. Okay, now, it might not look like what you thought, right? It might not be your particular preconceived notion of the good. And sometimes we have to change our perspective in order to see something as good. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a shift. And sometimes we even need the perspective of time, right? We get a little ways out and then we look back and we see that something was a blessing. But the good always shows up in one way or another. It shows up. So Vicky asked me to share my experience about the pandemic. And, I have a pretty unique pandemic story. Many of you know my story, but I haven't really shared it from the pulpit, so I'm going to share it with you this morning. So at the beginning of this pandemic, in early February of 2020, an old friend that I had not seen or talked to or been in contact with for some 27 years looked me up on social media. We began corresponding with one another, first by text, then by talking on the phone, and eventually, when I got up the nerve, by video chat. Took me a while to be willing to do that. Shortly after we started corresponding, the pandemic hit, and the shutdown started. And suddenly, we found ourselves with a lot more free time than usual. We spent that free time texting and talking and videoing for sometimes hours every day. And so, during that part of the pandemic, that it was a difficult time for, I know, many of us. It was tough for me too, but I was very caught up in the process of falling in love. So it sort of took the sting out of it a little bit for me. Well, after some time, we decided that we wanted to see each other, to see if this thing that was happening was as real in person as we thought it was by video and phone. But we couldn't because he was on the south side of the border and the borders were closed. So we were forced to use that time to get to know each other at a physical distance, couldn't be together physically. And it was extremely difficult as the relationship developed for us not to be able to see each other. But the result was that we ended up talking about things and sharing about things that we probably never would have had we jumped into a being in-person relationship. You know all those questions you know you should ask someone at the beginning of a relationship, but you don't because you're kind of chicken, you don't really want to know the answers, and you're like, oh, damn, I should have asked that a long time ago. You know what I mean? So we had that distance, and so I did that. I had my list, man. I went down the list, and I just asked them all. It's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask him. If there's something weird, I'm going to find out right now. Because I ain't getting any younger, and I'm not going through this again. You know what I'm saying? So I just started asking all the questions, and we had these great, deep conversations that I don't think would have been the same had we been in person. After 8 months of this, we were finally able to see one another in person for a very short time. I made a quick little sort of clandestine jump down to Mexico and spent a few days with him. 3 weeks later, the borders opened. And at that point, we decided to take a huge leap of faith, and he came to this country to live with me and Alexander and my 2 cats and my 1 dog. And 5 months later, we were married. Right here, in this very place. This was both of our first time getting married at 50 years old. So neither of us had ever been married before. We weren't able to have all of our family and friends here with us, which was unfortunate, but there were a few special folks here who made it really just wonderful, and Vicky officiated, which has just been my dream for like 20 years to have Vicky officiate my wedding, and it was a very special day that we will always remember. We're a family now. Paco, myself, Alexander, our dog, and our now 4 cats. 4. And cats are exponential. 2 to 3 is like 2 to 18, right? So if you haven't already met Paco, I invite you to go up and introduce yourself to him. You sit in the back. Whoop, whoop. He's a super friendly guy. I think most of you have met him, but if not, please introduce yourself and get to know him. So, one day when we're looking back on this pandemic experience, it's been tough, but I fell in love and got married during the pandemic, right? So, that's how I'm going to remember it, and it's always, my remembrance of this time is always going to be marked by having finally found my life partner and gotten married, right? But that doesn't mean that there weren't tough times. Sometimes we would be talking on the phone for hours, and it would be so hard for us not to be able to see one another in person. Last time we've seen each other, we were 21 years old. We were mere fragments of our current selves. Part of it was that we didn't know when the borders were going to open, so there was that open-ended thing. We just didn't know, We had this sort of antagonistic administration, and we didn't know whether borders were going to be closed for years. We just didn't know what was going to happen. I would sometimes get very, very frustrated and anxious about what was happening and depressed. Paco would always say to me, "Have faith, Michelle. Everything is going to be fine." But, everything's going to be fine. And he sometimes had to tell me that over and over, sort of talk me down from the ledge, I would get really crazy. Well, as the months went on, we began discussing his coming here and eventually preparing for him to arrive. I would sometimes say to him, "Are we crazy here? Are we nuts? Like, what if things don't work out? What if things aren't the way we think they are? Do we know what we're doing?" I'd have these doubts and panic. And again, Paco would say to me, "Have faith, Michelle. It's all going to be all right." You see, he was not yet a minister's husband, but he was already ministering to me. And he was right. Everything was going to be fine. I just couldn't see it at the time, and I had my human fears and doubts and panic and anxiety. Not only were things going to be fine, but everything was unfolding in perfect divine order, just as it should, in God's perfect timing. Not my timing, which would have been a totally different timeline, right? But it was unfolding just as it should. So what did I learn from this experience, and what were the blessings? Well, I've talked about this a little bit, that the biggest blessing was that these months of separation forced us to get to know each other in a different way and form an intimacy, that was based on something really solid and lay the groundwork for a solid relationship. It forced us to go slow and get to know one another and find out if we were really compatible, if we really wanted the same things in life, And it also really bonded us because we had both been, willing to wait all this time to see one another. I learned a lot from the experience and from the whole pandemic. One thing I learned, and this is super important, it's important to me, I learned to have more faith in the universe's plan for my life. When I could look back and see how things had really unfolded just the way that they needed to and would not have had it been the Michelle plan. I learned to have more faith in my own instincts and my own intuition, that on the cusp of 50 years old and having done a ton of work, I could trust myself and my own judgment and perspective. I learned to be a little bit more patient. I'm not going to tell you a lot because I'm still kind of impatient. It's not my strong suit. But I learned that good things are worth waiting for. I also learned that sometimes in life you have to take a leap of faith. That's not the way I was raised, I was raised to you don't do seemingly irrational things, although come to think of it, I've done a fair number of them, but that's another story. So this was a leap of faith. Now, it was a pretty well thought out and well calculated and discussed leap, but nevertheless, it was a big leap of faith. I learned that sometimes in life you have to just step out in faith in order for something wonderful to happen. And I learned that in these cases, it is worth taking the risk. Now, I'm talking about stepping out in faith in some way that you feel you are being spiritually called to do, not our every whim and, harebrained idea that we get. I'm talking about stepping out in real groundedness and faith. Well, things turned out pretty well for me, as you can see, and I'm very grateful. But I in no way want to minimize or invalidate the many, many very real struggles that I know many folks have had during this pandemic. I know probably many of you had some very real struggles. I know that many folks have struggled with feelings of isolation, loneliness, fear, anxiety, sort of this free-floating anxiety all around us, right? Depression, because all those things kind of, after a time, they, start to get depressed. Grief, we've had a lot of grief at things lost, people lost, and even some despair. You may have felt one or all of these things at some point during the pandemic. As Paco and I have been helping do some translation for the COPA meetings, we have heard stories of families that have been tragically affected by this COVID-19 virus. People who lost multiple family members. Not one, but like this thing wiped out half their family. People who've lost their jobs, lost their homes, couldn't pay their bills, couldn't pay their rent. People whose children had become suicidal, teenagers missing that, when you're a teenager, your friends in school or your life, and not having that just has had a profound effect on many young people. Just horrible, sad stories. And so I hold all of that, I hold all of that for all of us. I know it's been a really tough time for so many people. And, Vicky and I used to stand here and we'd just keep holding that vision of us all being back together. And here we are today, It took a while and there were some tough times, but here we are today, and I'm so glad. I think it's safe to say that one thing we have all learned from this pandemic experience is how much we truly need one another. Am I right? Yeah. We need one another's warm hugs. We need each other's friendship and company. We need each other's support, and we need the connection that we feel with one another. Turns out that's not just an extra in life. That is like foundational, right, for our quality of life. Not just being alive, but living, truly living. We need each other's help. None of us can do it alone, right? We've really found that out this year. On a very local, individual scale and on a grand scale. What I learned about our UMB community is that we are indeed a family. I didn't see my own mother for 5 or 6 months during the pandemic, but I saw some of you almost every single week. And you kept me going. People would talk about this extreme loneliness, and I'd say, I know I'm going to see my people on Sunday. They're going to be there. A few of them are going to be there, and we're going to do this thing. And that kept me going. Knowing that so many of you were at home watching us online or tuning in later to YouTube, and counting on us to bring you some uplifting music and an inspirational sermon and some feeling of belonging to something and that connection, and that you were counting on us to do everything we could to keep us all connected as much as possible. And we did, right? We did. We stayed connected. And I know that those connections made a huge difference in the lives of so many of you. And for that, and for all of those of you who make this awesome community what it is, I am so grateful. So now we are going to have some community sharing. So we've invited a few folks to come up and share what their takeaway was from the pandemic and how this community supported them as they were going through that. So, Keith, would you like to start us off? Yay! Our coffee minister, very important guy. The minister of the scone.
Oh, this one. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Michelle, for asking me to say a few things.
Yeah, get real close to it.
Okay. All right. So, like Michelle and many of you, I've learned some things from the last few months, but there's been a couple things that stand out for me, and I think it just reinforced ideas that I already had been learning and thought about. And one of them was the idea that anything can change at any time. We just don't know. We're just not in control, and that's probably part of my education. Is I just have to let go of things and accept what I can't change. In Pacific Grove, I am friends with the Buddhist master there. I'm neighbors with him, and I do little repair jobs at his house and things like that. We take walks, and sometimes I'd be talking to him, and we discuss the world situation. They'd be short talks because he would almost immediately say, just be happy today. Just be happy now. we're walking to the beach, you know, right now I'm speaking to you, you're listening, and just right now be happy. So that's part of my, what the Hindus call the sadhana, the education there, the path. And that's to be living in the moment, no matter what the moment presents itself to be. So those were the two things that, well, actually the other thing that really came home to me was my practice. Very important to have a practice for me. And I think I'm talking about meditation practice, a prayer practice. And certainly not 100% at keeping my practice, but it does soften life experiences for me to have a practice. So that's very important. And at this point, I want to compliment Unity, because I think Unity takes a very common sense approach to a practice, meditation. You know, we think of meditators as spending many hours in meditation. And here we say, you know, 5 minutes in the morning and the evening, you know, if you can do that. And just a place to start, a place to build a foundation. Very, very good. Also, during those last few months, I also appreciated the prayer council here, because I would ask for prayers for myself, for my family, which is there in Alaska, or I would ask prayers for my larger family, which is people that I know and try to help serve. And I could feel the prayers from the prayer council, and I was very appreciative of them being here. A monk once told me, he was a monk for 60 years, he said prayer was the most powerful force in the universe. So I really appreciated the keeping the channel of prayer open here at Unity. So the Buddhists have that term Sangha, and that means a spiritual community. Even though we weren't meeting at that time, I was coming here helping out with the coffee, and sometimes I would tell the Buddhist master in town I couldn't do something because Sunday was my time to serve here, and he started calling me the coffee minister. So that's my title. But
Yay.
thank you. It helped give me a focus. It didn't always get me out of the house, but most of the time it did, because I knew I needed to serve here. So, and I did enjoy, like Michelle, seeing the folks that were here putting on the virtual community show here, the service. So I just want to give a sincere pronoun to Ministers Vicky and Michelle, and the rest of you for your Christ-like examples and kindness to me over the years that I've been here. And it looks like we've got a new beginning here, and I'm very happy about that.
Thank you, Keith. Likewise. I can say back at you for that Christ-like example. Sue.
I just want to take you all in.
I know, right?
It's so wonderful to be back. You know, the last over 2.5 years, I've been kind of living under COVID conditions because of my health situation. And I feel like my connection with Unity has never skipped a beat and only grown. It's amazing the connection that can be made through the ethers and through the wires, or somehow. I found myself waking up every Sunday and looking forward to the lessons that Vicky or Michelle were going to give, and the coffee clatch afterwards, whether there was just a couple of us or a few of us, just sharing the week and just genuinely saying, wow, it's good to see you. It's really good to see you. And I have to say, like Michelle shared and Keith, even in our reading today, the Buddhists, they talk about the Dharma, the teachings, and the community. And you are truly my beloved community, and I am very, very grateful. And I'll always be grateful for unity. Thank you.
Thank you. Just incidentally, Sue was crucial in keeping our prayer chaplains going during the pandemic. We met once a week on Zoom throughout the whole pandemic, so that was I know it was important for us to meet as chaplains and then hold that consciousness for our community. So thank you. Linda. Oh, yeah.
It is so good to see all of you. Wow. When I was a little girl and frightened in the middle of the night, really little, like 3 and 4 years old, Sage's age, I would slip out of my bedroom and I would go down to the corrals and I would sit under a great big oak tree and look at the stars. And it was always incredibly comforting for me. It soothed me and I felt safe. And I felt like I was part of something much bigger than myself. Well, I'm not a little girl anymore. I'm a big girl now. But I still can be frightened. And COVID frightened me. It frightened me for my family. It frightened me for my friends. It frightened me for the world. And it frightened me for me. But every week, I would attend our virtual service. And I would remember my unity teachings, and I would give thanks for all of you, for you're the real church, not the building we're in. And I would leave Sunday taking a deep breath and marching back out into the scary COVID world because of our ministers and the unity teachings and our church and all of you. It reminded me that I'm part of something bigger than myself, something comforting, something essential. I'm part of God. So thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, Linda. Jasona, would you like to go next? And Sage, you can come too.
She's coming. She's part of my COVID lessons and learning. So I was going to make kind of a joke. I've renamed the shutdown the shit down. Because it really was a storm for me. Add a pandemic to a divorce, 4 children. It was crazy. And it was a total disaster. And then the loss of the support. I didn't see my mom for 3 months. It was insanity. And I remember meeting with Vicky and Michelle and getting some support and attending virtually every Sunday. And I do have to say I am so grateful for the shutdown. I learned a tremendous amount. I did start a meditation practice that is daily and is uncompromisable. And through that, I have had incredible awareness and insight and ahas. The slowing down, the quiet time, the reevaluating what was important and spending that extra time with my kids, learning new skills. I look back and as hard as it was, there was so much good, and I felt that I had support and love and God with me the whole time. And I'm so grateful it's over and we have some back to school and back to people and hugs and friends. And oh, it's wonderful. But I am forever grateful. And throughout the whole time, I had so much of unity just, going through my mind, take advantage of this time, see the good, see the silver lining, see the blessings, value people, reach out to people. As you're lonely, reach out. Other people are lonely. Call, write letters, connections, see who needs you, and know that you're in the perfect place anyways, even though it's rough in the external world and is going nuts around you. There's an inner peace and an inner capability and an opportunity to really center and grow and learn and become more godlike in this.
Which you are totally demonstrating right now. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, you're like the total calm. She's hanging off of you, and you're just so awesome.
So I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, goodness. John Dundon.
Wow, so many people. That's great. Oh, right. Me. The pandemic, I worked through the pandemic. I'm a mail carrier. And
Yes.
Thank you. And so my perspective was a little bit different, but I did see a lot of disruption and things that Rebecca and I, my girlfriend and I would do, like going out to dinner and the movies and things that we enjoyed doing before the pandemic, we weren't able to do. She was working at home, and it was just so much disruption. But the church kept on going. Unity kept on going, which was awesome. Though there was a change here. I mean, there wasn't as many people at all. It was just a handful of us, that was change. I'm not really big on change. I like routine, and so even at church there was, even here there was a change. It was, like I said, just a handful of us, and I missed having everybody here. I missed the hugs, and I missed the camaraderie and the talking after church or before we started. And but one thing I did take let me look at my cheat sheet here. The church, it kept going. There were positive messages of love and faith and hanging in there, coming through every Sunday. Watching it on Facebook. Occasionally I wasn't playing, so I was watching it at home. What I did take away from was I'm on the church council, and we would make these cold calls, and I was a little uncomfortable. I think maybe we all are, but I was a little uncomfortable making cold calls. But I needed to do it. I was asked to do it, and eventually it got a little easier. But it was nice to hear from other people, and kind of the idea was to see where they were coming from, how they were feeling, if they needed any help, if there were any prayers that they needed, that they wanted us to pass on and to the chaplains and all. And we did that. If there was any help that we needed to go out and pick up groceries and stuff for them. So in that sense, we kept the faith, we kept it going, we kept the church going, and we kept, even though we were just a handful of us, we were still mighty, and we were out there doing it. And I see so many people here, so I guess it really worked. We got everybody still, So anyway, thank you. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
And finally, Palinda.
Well, one would not think it of me, but one of the biggest takeaways I got from the COVID was technology. I am not at all techno-savvy. Thank you. Obviously. But the fact that we could Zoom the Sunday classes and then afterwards would go to the coffee klatch, and as Sue said, there were only a few of us sometimes, but it was a real connection, and we could talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And then the classes, and I have to admit that I have not been in the past a regular attendee of the classes that Vicky and Michelle and others have led, partly because it's a half-hour drive to come, and I don't drive at night, but being able to do it through the Zoom has been great, and it gave me something to focus on, the reading, the discussion, the seeing the faces that I have missed so much. Zoom has been really great, and it has enabled us to stay in touch with our daughter who lives in New York. We Zoom every Sunday afternoon, and that's been really important. It was a long period of time that we didn't see her. I just am very grateful to everything that everybody has done in this church to make us feel a family, and that we managed to get through the pandemic, and it's wonderful. I didn't realize, I said up front, I didn't realize how many people were here. And it's great to see everybody. Thank you.
And last but not least, Molly.
Hi. So somewhere along the way during the pandemic, I heard a funny that we're all going to emerge from the pandemic as a monk, a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk. and monk would be like spiritual to hermit. You know, hunk would be the person who worked out or learned how to make sourdough bread or learned new skills. Chunk, would be the physical hoarder, or the gathering supplies and prepping for the end of times, and then the drunk would be some sort of distraction substance or another, and I'm kind of landed in the monk chunk realm, and I found out I really like being alone, and I enjoyed. I kept working, and I kept connected with Unity. I was on, every Sunday. We developed this wonderful little routine where my husband John, he's not here today, but he's been doing sound, and sometimes playing drum and singing, which just melts my heart. But anyway, he would get up and he would go, and then I would roll onto the couch around 5 to 10. Have my coffee and a little piece of toast, and then toward the end, I'd start prepping things, and we'd have a lovely brunch after he got home. And I love that routine. And it's like I have been like saying we have to keep going on, on the Sunday morning live stream because I really like my routine. And then Vicky and Michelle started getting a little more insistent about coming in, and I'm like, okay, That means I have to get up earlier, and I'm not a morning person, but so it's like sacrifice, and I'm dragging in, and so then I have to say, I read the shout out in a new way, and I got real clear that whether or not I come here is not about me. A church is a congregation, and it needs to be comfortable. If you're a stranger coming somewhere for the first time, you don't want to be like the sixth person in the room. It's like it's nice to kind of be anonymous. And people need a safe place to land. They do come to church. Sometimes it's the dark night of the soul, and they come here the next day, and the congregation is what supports that. And so what I got out of the pandemic is, although I love being a monk on the sofa having my coffee around 10:15, it's important to get the attention off of ourselves and support each other. And so as we're celebrating our independence, we can also celebrate our interdependence with all beings. And so that is my prayer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is always such an awesome, important time of this service when we get to hear people's stories. They're so powerful. So thank you, all of you, for being willing to step out of your comfort zone to share that. And now Vicky is going to take over. Maybe I'll go down there.
Well, one of the other things we always do on this anniversary celebration is acknowledge who's in community and how we come together in a community to create beloved community. It's not something that just happens. It's something that's intentional, and like Molly says, it takes commitment, and it takes getting out of our comfort zones and thinking about something larger than ourselves, being willing to put ourselves out there for one another, and finding out that when you do that, actually you get more back than you put out. But our egos are always saying, well, wait a minute, I want to do this or that. And the truth is we come here to practice our spiritual truths together. And they're truths that don't show up in the world all the time. So we need to reinforce them with one another because they actually do show up in our lives if we practice them. So I want to thank all the folks that shared. And today is also about remembering that Unity of Monterey Bay is a divine idea. And it's sustained through our collective consciousness and our outward tithing of time, talent, treasure, intention, good thoughts, prayer, all of that. And that's what makes us this community. And so we're celebrating our community today that represents this collective commitment to bringing the sacred into our daily lives and co-creating this beloved community that is a blessing not only to us but to the world. As we create this center of love, it can't help but go out into the world. So we're going to go through I'm going to ask your patience, and we always go over today, but it's important at least once a year to name the folks that make this happen. And one of the blessings why this takes so long is most churches run on 20% of the folks doing 80% of the work. And in our community, we have 75 to 80% of the people always involved, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. I'm going to start by giving, again, you've heard this a couple of times, but thanks to our essential service team that kept our Sunday services going week after week after week. I think Michelle missed one Sunday out of all of those. Denise did not miss any Sundays. Denise was here every single Sunday. I was here most of the time, but I went to Cincinnati a few times and everything, and it's so wonderful to know we have this team that makes church happen. It was quite a learning curve, and we're still struggling sometimes with our technological glitches. As you can see, as we came back to PowerPoint, I went, I remember when the only technological glitch we had was with PowerPoint. Now it's live streaming and the PowerPoint and the mics and being 6 feet apart, all of those dynamics. But as, like Paulinda, we learned. I used to think I knew that this time was coming of live streaming and everything, but I would be out of ministry before it came. Well, Spirit had a different idea about that. So, again, with Associate Minister Michelle Vargas, who we're celebrating, as I said, her 2-year anniversary of being ordained and becoming our Associate Minister, and I am so blessed to continue to partner with through the novel times we've been through and the novel times that are ahead. That this has just been a joy to work with you. And of course, in addition to being here every Sunday and great lessons and doing the meditation, she still keeps up our Facebook page. And now we have this new vocalist. How many of us knew about Michelle's voice? I mean, did she step up or what? And along, as I said, our music director, Denise Hedlund, who didn't miss a Sunday. John, who isn't here, John Talon, who showed up. And we finally have someone who actually does our sound. And we're not running back and forth and trying to figure out why it isn't working. Every Sunday he was here and made it all come together. And then we discovered he's an amazing drummer. And then he started, if you guys hear him, he sounds like Cat Stevens. I mean, he's got this amazing voice, and we were going, whoa, this is awesome and such. And then, of course, we had John Dundon coming in and doing drums. And every time Richard was back in town, he also would stop in. And Devin showed up. Where are you, Devin? There he is. Devin showed up with his amazing vocals and guitar, and so it was an amazing team. Of course, along with that, we had Robin and Martha, who are co-presidents. Both showed up. Robin did platforming, and Martha figured out our Facebook Live thing and helped us figure out how to use the iPad, and just was awesome. And then Jan volunteered so that Martha didn't have to be here every Sunday and started filling in like she is today. And back with the music team, we missed Sue. And she's been back like the last month, and we are just blessed to have Sue back on the keyboard. And I think Denise is going to finally get a Sunday off again because Sue is back. So, also, I want to thank Jim. Most of you know him as Huckleberry, who also was backing up Martha. He's kind of become our IT guy because he was helping Martha. He helped us get all the lights set up so we had better lighting for our live stream. And when our computer in the office, it's our financial computer, crashed, he came in and got us a new one and got it all set up and everything. So he's not here, but oh, he's downstairs helping set up for the barbecue. So hope you're hearing me, Jim, downstairs. Larry Sanks is our UMB, I say yes. No matter what we ask him, he says yes. And he shows up and he does whatever is needed. Wave, Larry, in the back there. And that includes, in fact, as I was describing how each of the board members did something, and what were the initials I put for him? I put some initials, and he thought it meant taking care of my dog Toby, which he does all the time as well. But it was really about how he takes care of the facilities and everything, but he does take amazing care of. Except I sometimes wonder if we had that contest where Toby was in the middle and I was at one end of the room and Larry was at the other, I'm not sure Toby would know which way to go. He'd be like, wait, I want both. So anyway, I'm blessed in so many ways by all of you. Behind the scenes, of course, but essentially involved, as most of you know, because you got phone calls, are the folks who said yes to the leadership call. They took on responsibility for ensuring decisions were made in the highest and the best interests of our community. They did outreach phone calls, and they held the high watch and so much more as our leadership council. Most of you remember now that right as this all was happening, our church was incredibly blessed with an endowment that allowed us to pay off our building and just do a number of other things. In fact, we're hoping within maybe a month or two that you'll be sitting on new memory foam pew cushions. They're coming. We're in the process of working through all of that. But each one of these leadership council people not only participates in the overall governance. We were meeting at least monthly. At the beginning, we were, I think, meeting every 2 weeks, trying to figure out what are we going to do next. They were all following all the COVID protocols and all that kind of stuff to find out what do we need to do here, how are we going to show up and stay in service. And so I want to just name them all and have them stand because they never got a formal induction this year, but co-presidents again, Martha Price. She does the live stream website also and backup e-blast. Robin Falkenberg, of course, who does our platform and all of that coordinating. She's also our veterans, along with James, is our liaison to serving the veterans in our community. Sue Rosowich, who's secretary, and more to come. She does too many things for me to list here because they're going to keep coming. But as you know, she kept everybody in prayer and all that sort of thing. Colleen Adams, who's our treasurer, and also more to come about her. I already talked about Larry, who just does everything that we ask. Kay, who has taken on the e-blast. And you guys need to know that in our system, that's quite something. So every week she's been sending out that e-blast, and she's now back to managing Sacred Grounds and leading the banquet decorations. She told me to be sure and tell you you can now do your tithes again or buy your dinner tickets or your banquet tickets or anything again in the bookstore. So that's all good. John Dundon, besides playing drums, also leads our highway cleanup team. He also did all the research on the pew cushions, so we can thank him for that. And Sue Kaiser, our newest member, who's still learning the ropes, has just stepped up into all of this in the middle of COVID. She assists with the women's retreat and with a lot of our activities. And our emeritus wisdom keeper, Marianne Boylan, and James Bogan, who just keep us always grounded and always, just participating in that leadership check. So we're just grateful for all of you. Thank you. So I told you there was more that Sue Rosewich did. She's the team leader for our chaplain team that holds the high watch for prayer requests and the general good of our community. Other chaplains include Robin Falkenberg. Michelle continues to serve on that team. Larry Sanks, Joni Caldwell, Jan Lindenthal Cox, and Molly Steele, who joined the chaplains, and then, as many of you know, also took that out a little broader by bringing us a Monday night meditation time that I know has just blessed so many people. And so we thank all of the chaplains. Stand up, and Molly, thank you for Monday nights. As we were doing our classes, and we did classes on, besides COVID, we went through this whole awakening over this past year, this whole social justice awakening, this white privilege awakening, this all of the dynamics that our nation is dealing with in terms of coming to grips with our heritage and what, it isn't about. I was reading something that to say that acknowledge our past doesn't mean we're taking blame. It means we're taking responsibility. And only by taking responsibility, the ability to respond, can we change our future. And so in all of that study, Molly came to me and said, besides all of this, I think we need a place where we just go, and I need a place to exhale, and I would love to be able to provide that for everybody. So that's what initiated that, and we definitely needed that exhale. So again, thank you. With those classes I had with Sue and Michelle and Molly and Martha. Am I forgetting someone that would be small group leaders? Because I learned how to break people out. It felt like I was on Star Trek, going beaming people out and beaming them back in. It was like, wow, this is power. So people just stepped up in order to make things work. We started out our classes, we were having 18 or 19, sometimes 22 people on our Zoom classes for the first 6 months of this. And I think this is the first time we didn't have a break in classes until just recently. And so we usually do a 6-week class and then take a few weeks or a month off, but we went week to week to week, and it was powerful and enriching. And as I said, it was fulfilling what I always teach, what I most need to learn. And so it was a joy to do that with all of them. We have a care team that is facilitated by Michelle, include Regina Palmer, Colleen Adams, Robin Falkenberg, Joyce Feliciano, Kathy Greenwald, Kathy Pomeroy, Larry and Nicole Sanks, Sue Rosewich, and Denise Hedlund, and Susan Sutherland, all who, when people were in need, were prepared to send cards or bring food or drive someone somewhere. And so that's a huge thing. We have 40, 45 people that show up, and you're hearing all the names I'm doing, how we show up for one another. It's just an amazing blessing. And then, of course, our COPA team, also led by Sue Rosewich, that allowed us, we are a community, doesn't mean we don't have challenges, but most of us here are of a level of privilege. And through our COPA commitment over the pandemic, we were able to engage and be present for a larger community, for our essential workers, not only our postmen, but the undocumented folks that are picking the food that we continue to eat, and it would be available at the grocery stores for us to be there, the workers at the grocery stores, all of those folks. And we were blessed to be able to get involved in that. The COPA team is, again, led by Sue, but Mary Ann, Jan Lindenthal Cox, Linda Fossler, John Heil, Joni Caldwell, Liz Crook, Andrea Moore, Colleen Adams, Larry Sanks, Tish Salmon, Paula Browning, as well as Michelle and Paco showing up and doing translations many times. And Michelle often had to end up leading the group because there wasn't another leader there. We got some powerful things done over this last year to help our broader community, and that was so meaningful, and it's why we're here, right? We exist to be that presence of Christ in the world and the beloved community in the world, and because of every time we had a big deal and we would call on our community, this is one of those times you all need to show up, you would all show up. We're one of the smallest institutions in Copa, and we almost always have the biggest turnout at any of the events, so give yourselves a hand. Okay, administrative support. Colleen Adams still was helping doing deposits periodically. Dory Bogan was coming in and filing. I would come in and I would have stacks of papers, and all of a sudden I'd come back and everything in the office would have been organized and filed. My sister Pam, who continues to come and balance our books, thank you God, teach me how to do payroll taxes and all of that, and so that's a good thing that we have someone who really knows what they're doing, teaching me how to do the things we have to do. This past year, we've missed our ushers and our sacred grounds people and our PowerPoint teams. Thank you, John, for stepping up this morning and back into PowerPoint. We're gonna be asking. We need people to step up again and start serving in those roles. And we also give thanks. We did our auxiliary programs like the Holiday Adopt a Family, even in COVID. We got the families and people did the shopping and they brought the stuff in, and we served like 22 people and 4 families through that whole experience. Soul Gardeners, Belinda, kept connection, and we met a couple times by Zoom and actually a couple times in person distance. And the women's retreat, Kathy kept making contacts, and Sue Kaiser with Land of Medicine Buddha, and we have a new retreat date set. So I'm blanking in my mind what it is. April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So that is all good. And finally, thank you to the Leadership Council and Paco and everybody who has been setting up your barbecue. Again, when we call for something, people show up. I want to thank Keith again for keeping us. He would meet us at the door with a cup of coffee, I swear. And there were some Sundays that was a good thing, that we got met at the door with coffee. So we are just so grateful. And now going forward again, we need volunteers to step up again, to be ushers, to do PowerPoint, to learn live streaming. There's training for both PowerPoint and live streaming. Highway cleanup, people have continued to show up and do highway. Stand up, the folks that have gone out and done the highway cleanup during this time. Periodically, it wasn't always because they didn't want us to, but once again, and except if I heard this right, I think I may not need someone for plant care. I think Walter volunteered last week to take care of our plants here. Is that true? He did. All right, we got plants covered by Walter. We could use someone to lovingly take care of our used books, so I think Keith has been doing some of that without even telling us. He's just been keeping that arranged. And our Love Our Church projects as they come up. But what 18 months, right? It's just been, and my son got married yesterday. I didn't perform the ceremony. Salvador, who I just saw walk in a moment ago, performed the service, and my grandsons are there in the back here and my daughter here from Cincinnati. So it's just coming out of COVID. It's just been this great celebration, and so I'm grateful for that. So with all of that, we're going to. I got to find my place again because it keeps flowing. We're going to be grateful. And Robin's going to come up and do our offering. Thank you all. Oh, wait. I told you I lost the thing. We're going to do meditation, moving into a brief meditation, just to ground us, right? Okay. I'll get it right.
So,
God is here, God is now, God is all. God is alive within my heart. So I see and I feel and I know all is perfect and right in my world. God is here, God is now, God is all. God is alive within my heart. So I see and I feel and I know it's perfect and right in my world.
So I invite you to just settle in for just a few moments in this sacred space that we have all come together this morning to create collectively. Just letting yourself drop down into the heart space, sinking down into the surface beneath you. Feeling that surface rise up from the earth to support you. Feeling the peace and the relief that comes with just slowing down for a few moments. Setting aside all the busyness of the mind and entering into this sacred space of quiet, of peace, of connection. Allowing your breath to be slow and deep. With each breath, feeling yourself arrive even more into this present moment. And so as we settle into this space, we just allow ourselves to feel the presence of love, the presence of God, the presence of Spirit that is right here among us, between us, within us. This presence that's always there but becomes quickened whenever two or more gather in the name of love. And then in the name of truth. And so we feel that quickening of spirit. We feel that bubbling up of joy, friendship, sharing, that mutual support and connection that uplifts us, that strengthens us, that walks beside us. And allow your hearts now to just be filled with gratitude for this day, for this moment, for this beautiful community. As you rest for a moment in the silence.
God is here, God is now, God is all. God feel, and I know all is perfect and right in my world.
God is here. You help me to feel that presence of God. We help one another to be reminded of it. And so we are so full of gratitude. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
So I just want to give a little shout out. My son Kyle, so a lot of you know, is serving in the U.S. Army, and he was able to come home on leave. And sure enough, we came walking up this morning, and he jumped right in to help out.
Put him to work.
Just like when he was here before he enlisted.
Hey,
So,
Kyle.
Bubba, I love you. Thanks for bearing with me. Unity of Monterey Bay is the collective consciousness and commitment of all of us who give of our time, treasure, and talent in order to sustain the spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation in abundance and joyous generosity. We transform all appearance of fear or lack into a faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. And with our hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that there is enough, we have enough, and that there always is enough to both have and to share. And again, we are grateful to all of you for your online giving through our website at unityofmontereybay.org, and through your mailed-in offerings, including those who have set up automatic giving with your banking institutions. We are truly blessed. For those of you here in person, to honor the COVID protocols, we will not be passing the baskets, but they will be stationary in the back by the door, and you can drop off your offering as you leave before we go out to have lunch. Or you can drop it off in the bookstore. Thank you for that reminder. So now, from this place of faith and gratitude, I invite you to join me in mindful intention and joining in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
Living for the Spirit are we. We are unity. Get up everybody and sing. We are unity. Living for the Spirit are we. We are unity. And we love this community. Everyone can see we're together, standing side by side. And we thought just like birds of a feather, our hearts open wide. All the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me say for the record, we're in another ethos. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. Get up everybody and sing. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. Get up everybody and sing. Everyone can see we're together, standing side by side. And we fly just like birds of a feather, our hearts open wide. they be that close? Just let me say for the record, we're giving love and a unity dose. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. Get up everybody and sing. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. And without disability. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. Get up everybody and sing. We are unity. Living one in spirit are we. We are unity. And without disability. We are unity. Woo-hoo!
That was fun. Is everybody awake now? Well, as always, we like to mention the musicians whose awesome music we use. And today we would like to recognize Daniel Namod, Samuel Ward, Miriam Therese Winter, Elaine Silver, Richard Burdick, and the last one is Niall Rogers and Bernard Edwards. And of course, once again, our awesome music team. And yes, got our bassist back. It just adds so much to the service, doesn't it? It's so much fun. Okay, so we just have a few quick announcements. Be sure to check your e-blast for all of, I know it's kind of long, you got to keep scrolling down, but all of the things going on are in there, and you can check that. Let's see, of course, we are having our celebration barbecue after the service. You are all invited to join. Please do not feel like you needed to bring something. There is going to be plenty of food, hot dogs, drinks, and cake. So, we're going to have a good time. I also wanted to let you know that we have a little selfie station here in the narthex, so you are invited to take a picture of yourself, and we've made a thing that says back at UMB, and then post that, either post it on your personal page or post it, I think you can post it to our Unity Monterey Facebook page, but I'm not 100% sure. If you can't do that, there is a hashtag, back at UMB, you'll see it out there, and then that way I can get all those pictures and repost them on our own page. What we want is for people who didn't make it here today to see how much fun we were having, so they will want to come next week. I'm also going to be sneakily coming around with my phone and asking some of you to share on camera what's great about being back at UMB, why it's different than watching online, and anything else you want to share with the viewers at home. So if I come up to you and you don't want to be on Facebook Live, just let me know, and I'll do it anyway. No, I won't. No. Okay, our first dinner fling is this coming Saturday, July 10th at Sue and Marianne's, and hosted also by Sue Kaiser.
Right, we still have a couple of spots open, so.
Couple of spots open. It's always a good time at their house. It's going to be a
Live
tri-tip
music.
barbecue and live music. So check that out. Is that it? I think that's everything, right? Oh, Sacred Grounds Bookstore is open again, and you can purchase your dinner tickets there, as well as use the credit machine to pay your tithes and such. So that is back up and functioning. Okay, with all of that, as we begin to bring this wonderful, fun time to a close this morning, we're so grateful that you all came out today to be here with us and create this wonderful energy. And we are grateful. Those of you who are joining on, please keep coming back. And those who are joining us online, thank you so much for your loyalty and continuing to join us each week. And we hope we've made you feel at home in our UMB community. And we want you to know that wherever you may be right now on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Our chaplains are always available for prayer, holding the high watch for our community. So if you have a prayer request, there are forms in your pews, and there's a little box back there by the door. You can submit your prayer request. Also, you can submit prayer requests on our website, which is unityofmontereybay.org. All right, let's form our circle.
Circle, circle, circle.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
What does that mean?
So.
If
You
you're
wanna
not
explain?
comfortable holding hands yet, so that we continue the flow of energy, Molly has taught us, if you start with your thumbs up like this, and you turn them, everybody turns to the left, then you open your hands, and Robin, come over here. So you're like this. So if you're not comfortable holding hands, that still you literally can feel the energy moving between you and the person next to you.
And if you are comfortable, you can ask the person next to you and go ahead and hold hands.
It's all about comfort.
Okay, so holding our beloved nation in our heart today as we celebrate this day of independence, and just holding once again our community in that space of love and gratitude and appreciation. All those on our prayer list, will you please join me in our prayer for protection? The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
We're back! Woohoo! Yay! Yay, 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 yay! You did awesome.